Welcome back to another episode of today's economic news, where we dive deep into the stories that matter far beyond the headlines. I'm John, your guide through the murky waters of today's economic and socio-political landscape. Today, we're looking at a scandal that has sent shockwaves through the academic world. The firing of a teaching assistant at the University of Oklahoma over what has been termed the zero-grade scandal. Now, let me ask you this. What happens when academia becomes less about the pursuit of knowledge and more about enforcing an ideological homogeneity? When public institutions, funded by you, the taxpayer, decide what is and isn't permissible on the basis of a shifting landscape of social narratives, or does that leave room for diverse thought and freedom of expression? These are the questions we must ask ourselves as we explore today's story. The stakes are high indeed. Before we jump into today's disaster, let's go back a few years. Remember back in 2020 when conversations about academic freedom were front and center? Numerous states began legislating how gender identity issues and related subjects could be discussed in schools. Simultaneously, we've witnessed a rise in politically charged incidents on campuses nationwide. Debates around trigger warnings and safe spaces have become more than just campus chatter. They've become battlegrounds for ideological supremacy. Critics have often pointed out that university policies meant to foster inclusivity may, paradoxically, stifle conservative voices under the guise of protecting students. Now, the University of Oklahoma finds itself at the center of such a battleground. A teaching assistant, Samantha Fulnecki, was dismissed following her grading decision where a student received a 0 out of 25 on a gender identity discussion paper. To make things crystal clear, let's break it down. A 0 grade translates to a stark message: no merits, no understanding, no dialogue. It's a grade that echoes through the halls of academia as a sign of the tension between freedom of thought and institutional conformity. Let's dig into the evidence and analysis. One thing on the table is the 0, a grade given on a paper about sensitive gender discussions. In simpler terms, this wasn't just a grade, it was a statement. A 0 suggests an absolute void in academic worthiness according to the criteria set by Fulnecki. But her defense was, please note that I am not deducting points because you have certain beliefs, but instead I am deducting points for you posting a reaction paper that does not answer the questions for this assignment. Now, do they really expect us to believe there was no ideological influence in this decision? By giving a 0, the implication extends beyond this single student to the entire classroom climate, encouraging conformity rather than challenging ideas. Critics argue that Fulnecki's action reflects a broader issue in academia where dissenting or non-mainstream views are subtly but effectively censored. This is emblematic of educational institutions failing to truly serve as bastions of free inquiry. Now let's ramp things up with a little libertarian rant. The incident we're dissecting isn't just about one teaching assistant or one university. It's a symptom of a larger problem: governmental and institutional overreach. Taxpayer-funded universities should be places where diverse ideas flourish, yet we find ideological conformity being enforced through academic policy. It's akin to taxation without representation. You're paying for this education system through your taxes, and in return, you're handed ideological inflation where the value of education is diminished by censorship and bias. The government's failure to secure a genuinely balanced educational experience reflects incompetence on a grand scale. When the metrics of academic success depend more on one's ability to navigate ideological landmines than on critical thinking and empirical understanding, we do well to question what kind of future professionals, citizens, and leaders we are cultivating. Most importantly, this episode ranks high on the scale of personal liberty erosion. If a teaching assistant can be fired for evaluating a student's work based on a perceived ideological infraction, it sets a chilling precedent. Shouldn't universities be the bastions of free speech and discourse, instead of policing thought to conform to the latest social doctrines? As we wrap up, let's remember, liberty, once encroached upon, is exceedingly difficult to reclaim. So, if you're tired of footing the bill for a broken system that stifles rather than educates, then hit subscribe. Together, let's question who pays and what we truly receive in return. I'm John, signing off for today's economic news where your insights and freedoms matter. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.